I'm Andy with Competitive Cyclist, and this is the Cervelo R5. Yeah, you heard me right. Cervelo's back at Competitive Cyclist. This time, better than ever. I couldn't be more thrilled to welcome them back to the family, and I didn't realize how much I'd missed them until I hopped back on this bike just a few weeks ago. It's been an interesting journey for all of us in the intervening years, but right here, right now, it feels like we finally got the band back together, and the reunion tour is going to blow the roof off the joint. And the headliner on that tour is the completely revamped R5, Cervelo's take on everything a classic road bike should be. So, what'd they change? Well, to answer that question, you really have to look past the bike and behind the scenes. As you know, Cervelo is relentless in the pursuit of speed and efficiency. The concept of this R5 was born during the development of their adventure bike, the C5. You see, around that time, they realized that their approach to engineering wasn't really working because it was siloed. I mean, you had R-bike engineers and S-bike engineers, and the S5 ended up being much stiffer and more responsive. So much so that their pro teams were using them for every race, even the mountainous stages. But when the engineering teams came together on the C5 project, they realized their collaboration could lead to better performing bikes on both sides of the coin. So they started chasing the ideal of the perfect classic or non-aero road bike and discovered that while things like tube shapes and aerodynamics are certainly important, power transfer and, believe it or not, comfort are of the utmost importance. If this sounds familiar, it's because this ethos is what created their original overnight sensation, the R3, which to this day is still the bike I compare everything to. Well, not anymore. There's a new benchmark, and it's the R5. If you've been paying attention, you'll have noticed that since we last offered Cervelo, I've ridden Dogmas, Noahs, Heliums, Izalcos, Parleys, Pro Machines, Factors, Ibises, Bianchis, Villiers, Allieds, Cannondales, and even a Giant. You name it. In the past 8 years, I've tested it extensively. And look, I know I have a tendency for the superlative. I know that. But I'm going to say this anyway. The Cervelo R5 is the best all-around classic road bike I've ever ridden. If I had a mic, I'd drop it. It is that good. The bottom bracket stiffness and responsiveness is unlike anything I've experienced. Steep climbs and accelerating from stops are my kryptonite, but on the R5, both feel effortless. I was floored the first time I stood up to pull away from a group. 5 cranks in, I was headed up over 30 miles an hour and stayed on top of the gear for much longer than usual. It honestly felt like I was on an e-bike with about a 100-watt assist. Descending is also a dream. I effortlessly came to within a few seconds of my PR on the descent of Palomar Mountain South Grade Road. And unlike every other disc brake bike I've either owned or ridden, there was never any noise from the rear rotor because A, the rear end is mega stiff, and B, the caliper mount is molded to perfection. It's these small details that make Cervelo such an amazing engineering company. Now, typically when you get this much punch and stiffness, you pay a big cost in comfort, weight, compliance, and ultimately road holding ability. In other words, you get a squirrely bike that beats and scares the life out of you. Not here. The lower bottom bracket and updated layup, including the in-house fork, make you feel like you're in the bike, not on it. And Cervelo has also tuned the layup on every size so that riders of any stature will have the same experience that I did. And words like intuitive and telepathic really don't do that experience justice because they imply separation from rather than integration with the bike. I haven't owned a bike that is as perfectly balanced as the R5 since my last R3. And since this one has disc brakes and clearance for my 32C tires, I can't think of any other bike I'd rather own. If you have any questions, please give us a call or send an email to sales@competitivecyclist.com.